world's growing population uses more and more resources every day, and our lifestyles are becoming costly for the environment we live in. What does it mean to live sustainably in such a scenario? Does it mean living a life of lack? Well, it's actually quite the opposite. Hello and welcome to Eco India. I'm Sanuta Raghu, coming to you from Mumbai. If you live in India, you're no stranger to the blistering heat across the country, especially in the summer months. For many of us, turning on an air conditioner is the first response to tackling this heat. But this small action has huge repercussions on the health of the planet. A Delhi-based architectural firm is trying to popularize a new low-energy, cost-efficient air conditioning system. Let's see why this could be a game changer. Life at this potter's village in West Delhi revolves around the traditional art of pottery. The craft has been passed down for countless generations, but things have changed recently as cheap products from China have flooded the market. There's much less demand for clay. The members of the community, however, are proud of their tradition, but it can only survive if they can successfully compete with cheap alternatives.
काफ़ी लोगों को इसमें रोजगार मिला है। जहाँ मैं रहता हूँ उधर
Many people are still professional potters here, where I live. Around 500 families make all different kinds of things.
और जैसे कि different के
What
pots
they
वगैरह
make
हो गए,
changes according to the
season
season.
घड़े मटके
But whatever people
भी
order,
बनते हैं इधर।
we can make it.
जैसे कि जिस टाइप के यानी कि ऑर्डर आते हैं उस टाइप का हम बनाते हैं, काम करते हैं इसमें।
Traditionally, clay has been used around India for everything from holding drinking water to cooling homes. This heritage and the potential of the earthen material are inspiring architects across the country. Monish Siripurapu runs Ant Studio in New Delhi. He's going back to the basics on his quest to find cheap and energy-efficient solutions for urban architecture.
As a kid, I always used to like breaking things, putting them together, trying to make something out of it. That somehow translated into even in college at SPA, where I was very active member of this installation society, where we used to make art installations and like coming up with like kinetic forms and stuff, because apart from architectural projects that we used to do. So that's how it started, with my interaction with art in a manner.
Over the last few years, Monish has been working on a sustainable cooling system. It's called a beehive cooler and runs on minimal energy. It doesn't expel heat the way modern air conditioners do. It was first made to help workers in factories who were exposed to hot blasts of air from generator sets.
There are 600 employees working in that area, and then there is one DG set right in the middle. And in summers, it's really impossible to stand in front of it and even work. So when we started working on the project, it was peak summers and I could not withstand the heat for even 10 minutes. So after we installed the final beehive that we manufactured, we left it for like a couple of years, 2.5 years, and then we went back to see it after a good amount of time. The system was still intact and was working. The people were like really happy about it.
The structure is based on biomimicry, with a design inspired by the hexagonal cells of a beehive. It is made of around 800 earthen pots. Recycled water is continuously poured over the structure, which evaporates and lowers the surrounding temperature. At the factory where the cooler was first installed, it helped improve conditions for the workers.
Earlier,
the temperature was so high, and when people worked there, it was so hot that it felt your skin was being scorched. But today, these earthen pots that have been installed, when heat comes out of the generator, it passes through the pots and comes out 5 degrees cooler.
The last 15 years have seen some of the hottest summers the world over, and India's capital New Delhi is no exception. As the city reels under crushing heat waves every year, Indians who can afford it are turning to air conditioning and cooling systems.
It is having two impacts on them. First, it increases their electricity bill, which is quite substantial. And second, the heat this air conditioner throws out from their house onto the roads and into their neighbor's house is making their living more difficult. So it might be cooling you down, but it's heating up your surrounding.
Environmental researcher Avikal Shomvangshi has been studying the short and long-term impacts of thermal stress in India.
It's a viscous cycle. Hotter it gets, more AC you lose, more AC you use, more hotter it gets, and there is no solution. And this is just the microclimate. If you talk at the global scale, the energy used to run air conditioners is massive, and generation of electricity is still mostly driven by coal, which is adding to the overall global warming and climate change.
Researchers around the world are calling for a shift away from coal-dependent and energy-inefficient ways of cooling. Siripurapu wants his team and his clients to be a part of this significant change.
The response was really encouraging for us, because the kind of clients that we are working with now are the kind of clients that we are who are approaching us believe in a different lifestyle altogether. It's no more about taking cooling as a thing that's just as a function, but the whole notion of this, the art of cooling, is something that like really caught the imagination of certain clients that who like to take this chance and actually explore a different dimension.
And Studio displayed their latest installation at an exhibition by UNDP, which strives to fulfill two modern-day requirements. The terracotta structure with water cools the air, while the vertical garden helps tackle air pollution. For Dinesh Kumar and his community, the shift towards eco-cooling has given them a fresh outlook. They hope that the growing popularity of natural materials will boost their earnings and improve their prospects of carrying on the profession of their forefathers.
मैं एंट स्टूडियो के लिए 3-4 महीने से काम कर रहा हूँ.
I have been working with Ant Studio for the last few months. The team gives me a particular design and checks the quality of the final products. In the last 3 to 4 months, I must have made about 1,000 to 1,100 pots for the architects.
सर के लिए एंट स्टूडियो के लिए बना चुका हूँ मैं.
Innovations like this may not completely replace air conditioners, but their potential to minimize heat and energy loss can go a long way to making cooling greener.
Now imagine you had a year's income to live on, but instead of budgeting, you spent it all in just 7 months. And now you can only borrow more money, but at a very high cost that puts you and your family in danger. That's what's happening right now with the resources we have on Earth. Our next story will tell you where we stand when it comes to overusing them.
The amount we humans consume is bad for our planet. It's under severe strain. In the 1970s, people started measuring the damage being done to nature on Earth Overshoot Day. It marks the day when humanity's demand for ecological resources and services exceeds what Earth can regenerate per year. It started out slowly. During the 80s, we only used a little bit more resources than we had in a year. But since 2000, nearly all resources have been used up after only 8 months. This year, Earth Overshoot Day arrived even earlier. And since July this year, we humans, 7.7 billion people, are living on borrowed resources for the rest of the year. We're using more farmland and pastures, forests and fishing grounds than we actually should. Nature doesn't have time to regenerate. We're not only using too many resources, we also produce too much harmful CO2. CO2 emissions are produced by fossil fuels, industry, and deforestation. They've doubled since the 80s, up to nearly 40 billion tons per year. Air pollution and plastic pollution haven't been added to the calculation by the Global Footprint Network. The list of countries that are using too many resources is growing. If we continue living like this, how many resources of how many Earths would we need? We would need 5 Earths if we all consumed like people in the United States. We would need 3 Earths if we wanted to consume like Germans. And if we lived like Indians, we would only need 0.7 Earths. India has a poorer standard of living. The Global Footprint Network estimates that the whole world population lives as if we had the resources of 1.7 Earths at our disposal. But it's not too late. Just reducing use of fossil fuels by half could push Earth Overshoot Day back another 3 months.
Now, when I look at that story, I wonder, is there really a way we could live more sustainably? The promise of a good future has pushed most of us around the world to move to cities. But many a time, city living is not synonymous with sustainable living. There are some amongst us, though, who choose a sustainable life. They consume less, they grow their own veggies, and they keep a tab on their carbon footprint. We visited an eco-village close to Berlin to find out how feasible it is to live like this.
Berlin is the largest city in Germany with a population of 3.6 million. 1.2 million cars squeeze their way through the hustle and bustle of the capital every day. But peace and quiet can be found a mere 3 hours away. No cars are allowed in eco-village Siebenlinden, and just 150 people live here. Founded 20 years ago, it's also a no-go area for mobile phones. Michael Würfel moved here from Hanover.
What bothered me the most was the traffic and all the advertising, plus the feeling of being hopelessly exposed to everything. Here we're showing how it's possible to live sustainably in Germany and have an enjoyable life. We live comfortably here, but we consume far less energy than people elsewhere.
To save energy, the building's walls are insulated with bales of straw. The villagers generate most of their own electricity, which is also used to supply hot water. But the village isn't only energy efficient. The residents also try to grow their own food. They don't use chemical pesticides, and they mainly work the land the old-fashioned way. Nadine Fischer is a gardener.
It's more ecological to work without machines, so it's the logical option. It's better for the soil. It means less soil compaction, less gasoline, less dirt and smell. In the spring and summer, you feel connected to all the growth and development, connected to life.
Most things are done manually in Siebenlinden. There's no machinery to till the fields, and they don't use farm animals either. The few alpacas here are kept as pets. The daily communal meal contains no meat because it's bad for the environment and because the vegans in the village insist. Around 70% of the vegetables eaten by the villagers are also grown by them, and they're aiming to further increase that figure. And instead of being thrown away, the leftovers are recycled as compost. The villagers are happy with a small range of foods covering their basic requirements. Chocolate, also stocked by the village store, is a luxury. Andreas Schubert has nothing against city supermarkets as such.
The range could be smaller. I really notice the abundance of products. And then I have no idea what to buy or what's actually in each item.
The items stocked by the village store are all organically sourced and are therefore more expensive than their supermarket counterparts. But around the corner is a place where people give things away when they no longer need them, like clothes. Most residents have jobs in the village itself, as administrators, carpenters or gardeners, which means the money stays in Siebenlinden. But not everybody could afford to opt into this sustainable lifestyle, not even people in Germany. Joining the collective costs 12,000 euros. Building and maintaining an eco-village doesn't come cheap. So Siebenlinden isn't quite an ecotopia. It's a compromise solution.
From an eco-village, let's explore the idea of sustainability at a larger scale. Pritzker Prize winner Balakrishna Doshi is an eco-pioneer. He builds buildings to cause the least ecological damage to its surroundings. His low-cost housing project in the central Indian city of Indore, Aranya, is lauded world over. Let's take a peek at the life's work of this architecture legend.
The Kanoria Centre of Arts on CEPT University campus in Ahmedabad. It's a creative haunt for art students, as much as it is for professional artists. It's not far from the Ahmedabad Nigufa Gallery. Half this gallery's structure is below ground level. That keeps things cool here, even on the hottest days. The LIOC housing complex is home to a life insurance company's employees. They live together with their managers in the same building. Their children even play together. The brains behind all these projects is 90-year-old architect Balakrishna Doshi, who wants his buildings to be more than merely impressive.
Yeah, I call my architecture living piece of structure, because it speaks through the play that it has with the external natural elements, how it has a dialogue with rain, with sun, with shadow, with space. My architecture is created through the dialogue with nature and natural elements.
His own studio mirrors that concept. It's a mixture of traditional influences and those of his mentor, Swiss-French architect Le Corbusier.
My inspiration for my studio came from a couple of things. My personal experience in Corbusier's studio in Paris when I was there in 1951 to 54. It was on the first floor of a chapel, and it was the big corridor, and that corridor had a 3.6 meter wide room, that corridor upstairs, and then there were tables in line. And I thought that was a very nice way, of having a studio, and that is what this studio is.
Over the course of his professional life, Doshi has completed over 100 projects, mostly situated in his hometown Ahmedabad. They include housing estates like Atira, built for a textile company's employees. The Vitra Design Museum in southern German town Weil am Rhein recently showcased Doshi's work. Amongst the exhibits, a model of the Aranya housing estate for people on low incomes. In the late 1980s, every resident was given a small plot of land with a toilet. The rest they built themselves, depending on their needs and using purpose-built modules designed by Doshi. Now some 80,000 people live here. The notion of designing your own home according to your personal needs is more relevant than ever right now, in Western countries as well.
There's a housing shortage. Cities, Berlin especially, are increasingly having to struggle with rising housing costs. And it seems to me that Doshi has managed to combine a person's apartment with their sense of identity in a highly unique way. It's a meditation on how we want to live in the future, how flexible a house or an apartment has to be.
Doshi's granddaughter, Kushnu Pantaki Hoof, curated the exhibition. They selected his most important works together.
Some of the most important lessons from his architecture for many students and all practicing architects of today's generation is that his approach to participatory and open-ended architecture, where there are possibilities to grow, adapt, modify over a period of time.
Last year, Doshi was awarded the Pritzker Architecture Prize for his life's work. His opus includes the Institute of Indology. As a repository for ancient palm leaf manuscripts, it was a major challenge for an architect who had to ensure it maintains a constant climate within.
I'm drawing a sketch of the structure created by Mr. Doshi. The special thing about his architecture is that it's climate responsive, functional, very simple, different, and is very attractive.
Sustainable and mindful construction with constant reference to people and their constantly changing needs. Principles which are firmly embodied in Balkrishna Doshi's architecture.
Even consumption can be sustainable if you consider buying a used item over a new item. We went all the way up north to Eskilstuna in Sweden. The city has a mall dedicated to second-hand items, be it clothes, gadgets or furniture. And the Swedes are loving it. Just last year, the mall made 1.1 million euros in sales and saved tons of items from going to the landfill. Take a look.
Welcome to the world's most sustainable shopping mall. All the items here are second-hand. That means they're also more affordable than new ones. Customers at the recycling mall have to enjoy rummaging for a while for something that catches their eye. Almost everything here is one of a kind.
I have bought some clothes for the summer. I love that color.
This is a record player.
A book about whiskey.
You can find things that are not everybody has. Something special, something unique.
Recycling. We like recycling. We don't want to buy new things.
Amjad Al-Chamar runs the electronics shop. Like everything here, his computers, televisions and mobile phones are donations. The Retuna shopping mall in the Swedish town of Eskilstuna is located next to a recycling centre. People bring unwanted items of all kinds here. Anything that can be used or repaired goes to the mall.
Everyone who comes here, they have an objective. They come here to save the environment and help others to make some money. And like Retuna here, that the retail, it won't work without this, without the social understanding or like responsibility.
For Amjad Al-Chamar, every day brings a new find.
So this is something my colleague will have a look at.
In the workshop, the team brings defective electronics like this television back to life. For the Syrian-born shop manager, his work is about more than just earning money.
We have a responsibility toward this environment. So if we get worse, so it's not good for my kids and my grandsons in the future.
The Retuna shopping mall has 14 shops. Each one specialises in different kinds of second-hand goods, like furniture, books, or clothing. Sustainability is a major topic here. More and more Swedes want to know where and how the products they use and consume were made. But most consumers here still prefer new products to used ones.
One of the main focuses in trying to reduce the climate impact is to reduce the level of production as such, getting things to sort of be reused in that cycle rather than being put into a recycling process where you also need fossil fuels usually to produce new things.
Alex Friedunger teaches one of the many workshops organised by the mall. Participants learn upcycling techniques and how to use various waste materials. They also learn about production conditions in other countries and how to consume more sustainably.
We're definitely a part in challenging the concept of what is waste, and also challenging the concept of that even if we are part in a consumer culture, what we consume also makes a huge difference on what impact it has on the environment.
A few hours later in the electronics shop, the donated television is ready to go on sale. Amjad Al-Chamar hopes that the idea behind the Retuna shopping mall will catch on everywhere.
The awareness, the will, you need to know that you can do it, and everyone can. And as I said, I hope that it will spread all over Europe, the world.
And when that happens, more and more people will start to appreciate the value in things that have been used before.
Now, Sweden, the home country of climate activist Greta Thunberg, is definitely pioneering the thought that the time to make the start towards sustainability is now. I hope today's episode has given you the ideas, however small or big, to take a step towards a cleaner, greener future. We'll be back next week with yet another thought-provoking episode. Until then, goodbye.